So, good afternoon folks. Today's video is going to be about small minnow lures and how you can make the smallest loops in front of your Rapalas. This is for anybody with big hands, probably one of the most challenging aspects of making the loops, because you have to trim down the line so much so that it becomes difficult to tighten up the knots with pressure for avoiding slippage. Now, the first one you see here is the Rapala knot. This one comes uniform, as you see, from both sides. It's hard to get it smaller than this, and notice that this Rapala is quite small. It's smaller than the palm of my hand. It's about 5 centimeters or 1.5 inch. Now you can change the Rapala knot to a non-slip loop knot, but it's not as straight as the Rapala knot. This maybe is not so much of an issue if you have thinner lines, but with thicker lines it will make an angle like this. And if you follow this video, you will see why this angle show up when you tie the knot. Now, in both these cases, you can see that the size of the loops are about the same, and there's not much difference between the Rapala knot and the non-slip loop knot. However, there is another version. It's the Homer Road loop. This one comes in particularly handy if you want to really tie down the smallest possible loop in front of your Rapala lure. So hang on guys, I'm going to show you how to tie each one of these ones quickly. So the Rapala knot is one that comes out most uniform of all of them. And similar to the non-slip loop knot, the Rapala knot starts with a traditional shoelace loop. It's just a regular overhand loop like this. Now you want to create some tag here so that you have something to tie with. So we're going to extend that so we have about 4 inches of tag. And then we make a small little overhand loop like this. Now already at this stage the Rapala knot is going to distinguish itself from the other ones. So we take the tag end of the line and we stick it in to the eyelet of the minnow lure. As it comes out on the other side, we're going to run it back in to the shoelace loop, but we run it in from the other side, so it goes back in from this side. At this point we can tie down the knot as much as we can, because here is essentially where we create the size of the loop that's going to be sitting in front of the lure. Now, as you can see, I can tighten it down, tighten this one down first, and then I pull on the tag end as much as I can, and we pull it all the way down to there. We have to leave a little bit of eyelet open here in the overhand loop, because we're going to thread the line through there at a later stage. Now when it comes out on this side, you see that the natural way to wrap the tag end line around the main line is to wrap it around in this direction under the main line. This way you form an even knot or an even loop on the eyelet of your lure. 1, 2, and 3. That's all you need. You never need more than 3 here. Now you take the tag end of your line and you run it back into the overhand loop that we made in the beginning, and it's this one. So it's going to go right in here. At this point, it's easy to tighten down the Rapala knot. Now, some anglers, they say, well, the proper way to do a Rapala knot is to take the tag end and then lock it up through here. But the drawback with doing that is that you're going to have the tag end sticking forward along the main line. So in this video I will only tighten down the knot as it is here to show you why we get a certain size of the loop in front of the minnow lure. Because now at this point you can pull in your tag end of your line, but at some point you have to pull in the main line. And this is what I'm doing right now. And as I tighten up the Rapala knot, you can see that the loop in front of the lure increases. Now with a bit of training you can minimize this loop that you see here. But as you pull, you have to pull a little bit in the tag end as well. You can see that the loop doesn't become smaller in front of the lure, it actually becomes larger. Now I'm going to pull this with a plier to show you how big this one will become. This is as small as you can get it. Let's move on to the non-slip loop knot, and we will see why it takes an angle, a bit tilted angle of the line as you tie it. So the non-slip loop knot starts in the same fashion as the Rapala knot, with an overhand loop like this, a shoelace loop. Also here you want to create some tag end so that you have something to tie from. Now the major difference is that in the non-slip loop knot you stick the tag end through the eyelet of the lure, and then you bring it back into the loop that you made in the beginning from the same side as it came out. Then we tighten down the loop like this, and we wrap the tag end of the line clockwise. If you're thinking that you're looking from the lure end, 1, 2, 3. Now we immediately see that we end up in the same situation as before when we run the tag end of the line into our first made overhand loop, which I'm doing right now. With that having said that, as I tighten down this loop now, or this knot now, the loop in front of the lure can only become larger. I pull from the main line this side and in the tag end, and the more I pull, the larger becomes the loop in front of the lure. So it doesn't become smaller. And this is in the same way as with the Rapala knot. So now I tighten down this one as much as I can. Now you see why we get a tilted loop in front of the lure eyelet. So it's sitting on an angle. If I pull it even harder, this angle, it goes from here to there, will be even greater or bigger. I don't know if that makes a difference, but every time you do this, regardless if you do the Rapala knot or the non-slip loop knot, you will end up with about the same size of the loops in front of your lures. It's pretty much identical. And here you can see on the right hand side you see the Rapala knot, on the left hand side you see the non-slip loop knot. Let's move along to the last one, which you can make smaller, and I will show you why. So here's the Homer Road knot. It starts in the same way as the other knots, always with the shoelace loop. Now here we take the tag end of the line and we put it in the eyelet of the mini Rapala. Then we run the tag end of the line back into the shoelace loop from the other side, overhand, and we tighten it down so we end up with this tight starting position. Now, instead of doing the same wraparounds like we have for the non-slip loop knot and the Rapala knot, you run the tag end line underneath, over, another twist, and then out, parallel, with the main line, like this. Now we've formed a sort of stopper knot here. And as I tighten this one down, I can actually move this backwards. And this is why you can make the Homer Road loop much smaller than the non-slip loop knot and the Rapala knot. So you see, I'm just moving it along here, pulling in the tag end line. You can actually put them on the side like this, and it will be easier for you to move both of the loops towards the lure, as you see there. At this point, I will start tightening down the stopper knot. Depending on how tight you get this stopper knot, the smaller the loop will be. So that's where we're going to settle with this one. I'll cut down the tag end, and now as I pull, you see how the loop forms in front of the Rapala. I could have tightened this one even more, especially from the tag end side. But now you see my point. Let's compare. So, from the left hand side, we see the Rapala knot. Then we have the slightly tilted one that you see here. It's the non-slip loop knot. They come out about the same in size. But then finally, as you see over here, the Homer Road knot is about half as large in size, based on the fact that it forms in a different way than the two previous ones. This one's my favorite though is the Rapala knot, because it sends out the tag end of the line in the direction of the lure, so it snags less of seaweed when you fish it. Cheers!